Cancer is it's a growing problem in many countries, and it's due to seed oils and mitochondrial damage. They're talking about in the in not too distant future, and especially if we continue going this route of all kibble. I mean, just look at Nauru, the level of cancers, cardiovascular disease, diabetes, just through the roof, amputations. That's what the future looks like. It's a really excessively unhealthy society that doesn't have access to real food, and it's just all processed garbage. The Bill Gates of this world want to basically buy up all farmland and turn, and all these virtual ceiling, BS climate crackpots want to pretty much turn us into kibble eaters and eliminate animal food supply or limit it to a large extent. And that's going to be a problem for a lot of the population because they'll have less access to those foods, and people just naturally gravitate to what's there available. We need to get the message out that, and share it amongst that Nauru video, share it amongst your relatives and friends and stuff like that, and say, this is what the future looks like if we go down a full 100% kibble culture. And remind them that back in the 1950s and 40s and stuff like that, most of our diet was, because we didn't have refrigeration, was animal based. And people, there may have been an increase in cardiovascular disease amongst the more wealthy and upper middle class, but that was due to them giving up on animal fats because they considered them unclean, smelly, and the lower classes ate that sort of stuff, and so they were having clean, refined oils that didn't have a smell, and stuff like that. And they were the ones actually getting the cardiovascular disease. Eventually, the whole of societies started getting it because it became pervasive. It wasn't only in the homes that it was being used more and more as years went past, but also the fast food industry started shifting away from tropical oils and animal fats and using these cheaper oils as the production of these increased, and as the subsidies, especially in the US and a number of other countries, increased to facilitate their growth. So these are important things that a lot of us are not aware of. It's the reason why they're so pervasive in the food supply. It's not accidental, guys. And it's really, we need to realize the dangers of these foods, and all the actual new plant-based alternatives. Pretty much what they are is full of seed oils. They are highly toxic food in terms of deuterium. And if they become widespread and people shift across to these foods at a much more increased rate than in the past, we will see that 1 in 3 with cancer. It will become endemic, because people have asked me, why, Harry, are you prioritizing cancer videos? It's because I fear for the future. That's why. And I'm giving the warning out to people why and how. And the more of my people can demonstrate that they can turn their lives around and actually improve their state of affairs, they will be, you could say, flag bearers for a different way of eating and a different way of living for other people, because the other solutions don't work. And all they've got is basically chemotherapy and radiation as a method of poisoning the body. That doesn't work. It damages the immune system, which is critical in fighting cancer. So, we're going down. A lot of people out there are, their health is going to get worse, and their understanding of the how to get away, how to solve these problems for themselves is, pretty much 99+% of the people have no idea. We're talking about less than 1% of the population even knows this, I mean, how many people actually follow these sort of protocols? My protocol, very few. A very small amount of a couple of thousand people that are aware of it, and a couple of, a handful of people that basically have cancer and applying it. the majority of society out there have got no idea. And a lot of the low carb people and all that, they've got part of the understanding, but not all of it. So they don't get the results that are required. And so they're not as convincing. You can't be convincing if you just partially deal with the problem, because they can say, well, chemo does the same thing. It puts you in remission, but it also sets you up for a bigger fall later on because it's damaged your immune system, created vast immunosenescence, plus additional damage, which makes you vulnerable for metastasis, for much more virulent levels of cancer. And that's what usually kills people off in the end. But the problem is, it is a mitochondrial disease, and it is a deuterium primarily damaging effect. But lowering deuterium level, like like Laszlo Boris does, or many of the others, he understands also that melatonin heals the mitochondria, good sleep and stuff like that. Doesn't understand how much, and doesn't know how to amplify it with taurine. That's the other thing, or using senolytics and amplifying them as well through melatonin. So a lot of these things are not known, because it's sort of, there's research all over the place that covers these things, but nobody's put it all together, so to speak. And, the powers that be don't want it put together, because just imagine if you come up with a comprehensive protocol to deal with it. What happens? You got billions of dollars of industry that are at threat of losing a lot of their, I'm small, so they don't really fear me, people like me. But if I was a big, like Russell Branson, or, one of these big people, well known, obviously I would be a real threat. They'd probably knock me off. I wouldn't be surprised. So, these people are ruthless when they've got a lot to lose.